Kantian ethics. Kantian ethics is based a priori absolute system of ethics, which is based on a definition of the word good, according to goodwill. Something is good, according to Kant, if it is acting out of goodwill. The intention is everything. Why is this the case? Well, the goodwill is the only intrinsic good, says Kant. It shines forth like a precious jewel. Quote, "It is impossible to conceive of anything in the world, or even out of it, which is good without qualification, except a goodwill," says Kant. Why is this the case? Well, hypothetical imperatives, those commands which depend on something else for their fulfillment, aren't good in themselves. So, for instance, if you want to get strong, go to the gym. If you want to get to High Street Kensington, take the tube. These things aren't good in themselves, going to the gym or going to High Street Kensington. You've got to use them to get to something else. These are unacceptable because they're not intrinsic goods. So the only thing which is good is goodwill. How do we then act out of goodwill? Well, we do our duty. We do our duty for no other reason than it's our duty to do so. So that if I act out of goodwill, I should be always acting out of my duty. No other reason, no other motivation is necessary. How do I ensure that I'm acting out of my duty and therefore goodwill, the only thing which is intrinsically good? Well, I need to follow the three formulations of the categorical imperative. Universalizability, human beings are ends and not means, and we should act as if we were a law-making member of a kingdom of ends. So universalizability, the most important of all the three formulations. We need to act that our maxim can be universalized to every other person who is in the same situation making that decision. And if there's a contradiction, either of the law of nature or the will, then that is revealed as not a categorical imperative. A selfish motive is there, and Kant doesn't like selfishness, not because it's not very nice, but because it's not acting out of goodwill, which is the only intrinsic good. It's not logical to be selfish. There's nothing emotional about what Kant's saying, don't be selfish for whatever reason. It's don't be selfish because it's illogical. It's not acting out of the goodwill. So we've got to universalize it. If there's a contradiction of the law of nature, such as only keep your promises if they mean that you're going to benefit from them, well, that could be a contradiction of the law of nature, because if everyone did that, the nature of a promise would no longer be a promise, so that we would actually contradict the nature of a promise. So we must make sure that there's no contradiction of the law of nature. A contradiction of the will would be if my will was actually compromised, if that maxim was universalized. So for instance, don't give to the poor and keep what you own. That can't be universalized because there'd be a contradiction of the will. If everyone else had that maxim, then actually what might happen is no one else would give to me, and therefore my will would be contradicted. So a contradiction of the law of nature, a contradiction of the will, these things would reveal, if there was one, that it's not acting out of the categorical imperative, and therefore it is not acting out of goodwill, which is the only intrinsic good. We've got to keep coming back to this idea of goodwill. So the second formulation, human beings are ends and not means. We should treat human beings as if they're an end. We shouldn't be using them just to get what we want. Why? Because it's not very nice? No, because it's illogical. If we treat human beings as ends, then we're not using people to get something else. In other words, we're treating people as ends in themselves, intrinsically good in themselves. We're acting out of goodwill, which doesn't owe its existence, its goodness, its fulfillment to anything else. So we need to make sure that we are treating people as ends and not just means to an end. And the final formulation, act as if you're a law-making member of a kingdom of ends. I think these are the this formulation is just a summary of the first two, so that we ensure that we are in a situation where we are making a rule in a kingdom of ends means that we will be making sure that it can be universalized. And we're also making sure that we're treating human beings as ends, not means. The thing to remember about Kant is that it's all about this definition of goodwill. If goodwill is the only intrinsic good, we must always act according to the goodwill. And to act according to the goodwill means to act out of duty. To act out of duty means to act out of the categorical imperative, not hypothetical imperative. To act out of the categorical imperative means to act out of universalizability. To act out of ends, not means. Human beings, ends, not means. And to act as if we're a law-making member of a kingdom of ends. That is the way we want to look at Kant.